I attempted to give you guys a quick review on what we last discussed on Wednesday about the sentence types. So we kind of had a lengthy discussion about sentence types, especially in preparation for your revisions. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the results in just a moment. But I've posted a new week 7 module to where if you felt that you struggled to answer any of those questions on the poll, such as, what is a simple sentence? What type of sentence includes a comma and coordinating conjunction? So the questions you guys just reviewed in the poll, we're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. But I do want to give you guys a quick update. Technically, this week will be the last week of us meeting face-to-face. So look, I'm gonna give you guys time to let that sink in. It has been a sprint because you guys know the summer course is
not entered any numbers. Please enter your meeting ID.
Right, you guys know that the summer course is an accelerated course. You guys have received pretty much 16 weeks of instruction condensed into 7.5, 8 weeks. So it's gone really fast. If you guys have felt like, oh, this is a lot of work, that's exactly what the summer course normally feels like. But the good news is you guys have made it to the end. Next week, Monday, July 20th. Now, I'm stating that, but I'll also send out a reminder just so you guys can have it in the announcements. Mark your calendars. Make sure you are available all day Monday, July 20th, because all day is reserved for you guys to complete the final CRT, and that includes the multiple choice, short answer, summary portion, as well as the essay portion. So again, Monday, July 20th, you guys will have all day to complete your final CRT plus essay portion. Now, the catch with that, I did hear from a couple of students when we completed the midterm who felt that the task was a little bit daunting, right? It was a little bit overwhelming. So I've come up with a plan to, I hope, make it a little bit more manageable. So today I want to introduce you guys early to your essay question. So we're going to talk about that today. But make sure you guys have it marked in your calendar. Make sure you are aware. The chance for retakes of the final CRT, they do not exist. So you do not want to miss that day under any conditions. Again, there are no retakes or makeups unless, of course, medical emergency for you guys to retake. So Monday is what I call showtime. That is everything we've been working towards in class in terms of our study of active reading habits, our study of the writing process, what we've learned in terms of the practice midterm. All of that has been preparing us for Monday's final assessment, okay? So I know I've said it like 3 times, but make sure you guys are, making note of that day. This week, again, is the last week that we meet face-to-face in the synchronous setting. So we'll meet today, we'll meet Wednesday, and then Monday is kind of the culmination with that final CRT/essay. So we'll talk about that. I did want to today discuss what you guys, or what I have outlined for the week in preparation for that final CRT. I've taken a look at your self-assessments. You guys turned in those self-assessments last week. So I've been able to kind of get a good idea of what students may still feel that they need a little bit more instruction on, what perhaps have we not spent a lot of time talking about. And this week I really wanted to target that. So this week, our 2 course meetings on Monday and Wednesday is really organized around, again, preparing you guys, of course, for that final CRT, but also kind of making sure that we hit those objectives or outcomes that you as students have identified you feel that you need a little bit more instruction in, okay? Did everybody get a chance to turn in that self-assessment? I think I've only looked at 3 or 4, so we were skinny
Yes.
that in.
I think I've turned it in, Ms. Cole.
I saw yours, Jamisha. I saw yours, Elias.
I turned mine in.
Janaya. I think that was my 3. It's 3 or 4. I could be missing one. So if I don't have it right at front of my head, I know I got that email, those emails in. I think it was Jennifer who gave me the other. I'll double check, so don't worry if I don't say your name. I just may not have it at the top of my head. I do want to talk today. Also, you had a question, Yamna?
Yeah, I'm not understanding. What are you talking about?
The self-assessment. It's on the checklist from last week. Did you send it in? Do you remember sending that in? If not, don't worry about it. I'm speaking, I guess, to you know, those of you who've completed it, then you would know what I'm referring to in terms of.
You're talking about
I'm sorry. Say it
Can
again,
you show
Yamna.
me? Can you show me? I don't.
I'll show you after class. Okay. So with that assignment, you guys know that today's discussion is going to center around the Sandra Cisneros. I refer to it as reading practice because it kind of takes us through the steps of what you experienced, what you will experience with the final CRT. So it looks at those questions. It asks you guys to summarize the text as well as respond in an essay form to a particular question. So it was operating as giving us a little bit of extra practice. So I did want to talk about that today. I'm prepared for those students who did not complete it, who did not submit it. You will be placed in a breakout room while we discuss the results or the answers of that, because I kind of clearly stated last week you wanted that done by today because that's what our discussion would talk about. I'm sorry, that's what our Monday discussion would really center.
Oh, I got it.
Questions. Hold on, Yamna. That's what our discussion today would really center around is those reading questions, and just kind of a deeper discussion on, you know, language and how it played out in that particular text. Okay, so we'll talk about that. Let me go ahead and pull up the week 7 module that I've just posted, and you guys know with the week 7 module, it is a from Monday to Monday schedule. So you guys get the schedule now, but you have a week, of course, to work through these assignments. Since you guys know that next Monday is the final CRT, don't wait till the last minute to work through these assignments, okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the new week 7 module. Even though I muted myself, so they didn't hear me talking to you. All right. So I see that about 10 people went in today. So if you didn't get a chance to look at the new week 7 module yet, that's okay. I just posted it, you know, this morning. You guys may have missed the poll. It was when you first entered the class, you know, discussion. You should have been presented with a poll to complete. But it's okay if you guys missed that. We'll talk about that in just a second. Let me go ahead and pull up what has been added to week 7 module. You guys will find that a lot of this is week 6. Week 7. Yeah, so I know you asked Yamna about the self-assessment. It's right here in the week 6 module. So that's what I was referring to with that. Let me go to week 7. And this may look like a lot of, you know, documents or assignments, but most of these assignments we will go through today. So let me show you guys. You see the first one listed here is sentence type. So you guys remember the PowerPoint presentation we participated in on Wednesday. This gives you further study into this. And let me pull this up really quickly for you. Hold on. So that you guys can get an idea. All right, so you'll see that in week 7 module, there is a handout that really goes into further detail about that presentation. So as you guys entered the discussion today, entered the Zoom classroom today, there was a small poll that students were asked to complete. And what it did was kind of reviewed what we learned Wednesday about sentence types. We learned that there are 4 basic sentence types. There is the simple sentence, compound sentence, complex, and the compound complex. So we took a look at that. We had visual examples, but this kind of gives a quick overview. So this kind of puts it in more manageable, in a more manageable handout. It defines it, it gives you examples. Same with compound sentence, complex sentence. So when you guys entered the Zoom course, you were asked a question, what type of sentence includes a comma and coordinating conjunction, right? What did we select for that? What type of sentence includes a comma and coordinating conjunction? We can call it, it links 2 independent clauses. Quick review. Can you guys see my screen?
No.
Do you guys see
Yeah,
the
I see it now.
My bad. But just off the top of your head, if you can't remember, in talking about compound sentences, they're always joined by the coordinating conjunctions, the fanboys. So we talked also about complex sentences that uses your subordinating conjunction. So you guys kind of see where my mouse is here. So study this handout. That's the way the reason I posted it. I'm not sure if this helped you guys at all when you were revising Essay 1, but we can talk a little bit more about that. But there is homework tied into this where it allows you to practice with these 8 sentences. So again, you guys will have time to kind of work through this on Tuesday, which is our day of practice and independent study. So just know that that's there in our week 7 module. Not only is it a good, clear review, but it also gives us an opportunity to practice. So this is tied in to homework. So I'll reiterate that. All right, let me go back to our Brightspace page where you guys can go back to the module. Give me one second. Sometimes I get too many screens up. All right, here it is. Let me share. Okay. All right, so you guys can see the module now up, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so you see that the sentence type handout is there that is attached to homework for this week. But I did mention that for our final CRT, which is Monday, July 20th, look, I'm being repetitive. I did want to give you guys a preview of the essay question for that assignment. So you guys can get ahead of that. I know a lot of students told me when we discussed their midterm, a lot of you guys felt like you needed more time. You felt like if you had an opportunity to, you know, outline or at least draft before that final CRT, you feel you would have done better with that essay portion. So I'm presenting the essay question for the final CRT in your week 7 module. It's here already. And students can begin to outline, you can begin to draft, you can begin to do what you need to do in order to plan and organize, so that on Monday, when you guys take that final CRT essay portion, you've alleviated some anxiety, you're prepared, and you can really execute that 5-paragraph essay. It is a 5-paragraph essay for the final CRT. They want to see that you can write the academic standard for college level, which is that 5-paragraph model. So you get a head start, you get a practice on that, and we're covering that a little bit further today in class. We'll also have time today to go over commonly confused words. I talked about this briefly on Wednesday, but we got a pretty fun, well, I won't know if it's fun. It may not be fun for you guys, but there is an activity today associated with commonly confused words. There's also a PowerPoint presentation in week 7 module. If you feel, well, I won't even say if you, this is mandatory reading. Everything in the module is mandatory reading, but the significance of this art of quoting presentation is it allows us to be mindful of and take steps necessary to avoid plagiarism. For our first essay, in some cases, plagiarism was a major issue. And I don't think that students, in some cases, intentionally plagiarize. But what we really need to make sure that we're doing is we're citing our sources appropriately. So anytime we quote from a text, we need to be mindful that we are including with that quote a citation that gives credit to the source. So whether we say, according to Maria Popova, and then, lay out the quote, we want to make sure we are not borrowing any language that doesn't belong to us or that didn't originate in our minds, or any ideas that we took from the reading and kind of present it as our own. So we're going to spend time talking about that today as well. And this last PowerPoint presentation in the week 7 module is more of a prep. It gives you an idea of what you need to do to study for the final CRT assessment. So all of the information here is very pertinent, is very relevant to what you guys will be doing for Monday's final assessment. Make sure you're reading all of it. But again, we do have certain assignments attached to the reading here, okay? All right, let me go ahead and get us started, especially when talking about the essay question. I want to start there so that I can kind of leave us adequate time to discuss it. Let me see if it'll pull up while I'm here in this window. Sometimes it gets a little funky. Now, you guys know how we have had journal entries. Well, I want to start with our introduction to the essay question for Monday's, for Monday's final CRT. I want us to approach this question as a journal entry. And in us approaching it as a journal entry, you guys have an opportunity to brainstorm, think about how you want to respond to this question. You get an opportunity to free write on that question, and hopefully in review of this information, it can help you plan and organize your thesis, which helps you to outline your paper. So let me attempt to make this a bit clearer for you. All right, actually I have a better view. Hold on, let me stop this share. I actually have a clearer version that we can take a look at.
Is this journal 7? Let's go.
This will be journal 6.
6, okay.
But, oh no, I'm sorry, this isn't it. Hold on, this is it. All right. So for the final CRT essay, and this is what you guys will be producing Monday, it's more of a reflection question where it's asking you to reflect on the learning that has taken place in the class. And you guys saw a question similar to this in our midterm CRT. It was a short answer, but it asked, out of all of the readings that you've read, so far this semester, which one has helped you to better understand other people and their cultures. Do you guys remember that question from the midterm CRT?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we've had limited experience, but again, this question is asking you to reflect on what has taken place throughout the semester. And in your response, not only should you be specific, but you should also outline examples or evidence that helps support your, your main idea. So you guys see on the screen, let me pull out my spotlight. Here is the essay question. And they are requiring that for this question, students produce a 5-paragraph essay. So this is why I'm giving you guys this question a week early. I want you to definitely take time to consider it, draft on it, outline for it, so that you can use that information on Monday in getting through that essay question. You should definitely start preparing for it. But I want to.
Are we going to get what the reading too?
I'm sorry. Yeah,
we getting...
you guys get the reader on Tuesday. I'm glad you brought that up, Jamisha.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think last week you guys will get the article Tuesday, but today I'm giving you guys right out the gate the essay question that you will see on the final CRT. So we can kind of start prepping and planning for that. Okay, so.
Ms. Cole.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is something. Okay, it is something similar to the other midterm we took, the practice. So okay, this question is just based off what we feel. This don't have nothing to do with the story.
This has nothing to do with the story. So I know normally, now you will still have short answer questions, but it just won't be in relation to the essay portion. So you guys will still be asked questions about the text that'll still require you to connect with it. What did you think? What are your ideas about it? Do you agree or disagree? But the formal essay question is more of a reflection. And they are asking you to reflect on the learning that has taken place. So if you guys see the question here, it says, in what ways have you grown and developed, throughout the semester as a reader, writer, and critical thinker? So what they're asking you to do is think about everything that you've learned. Think about perhaps what strategies or concepts that have been introduced in the class. Think about how they have helped you to grow and develop. A synonym for develop, improve. So the good thing is you guys just completed revising essay number 1. And during that revision process, learning has taken place. It'll be up to you guys to articulate that learning. How have you grown? How have what you learned in this course helped you to become a better reader, writer, and critical thinker? So the good thing in this particular question is it somewhat is setting you up for a 5-paragraph essay, especially if you think about in body paragraph 1, I can talk about the ways I've grown and developed as a reader. In my body paragraph 2, I can talk about the ways I've grown and developed as a writer. And in my body paragraph 3, I can talk about how I have improved or developed as a critical thinker. So the question is designed for you guys to respond, to formulate your thesis statement, so a response to this question, and then use it to outline your body paragraphs, okay? So before we dig any deeper into our discussion on, what this may look like in terms of outlining, let's take out a sheet of paper. If you guys are using a sheet of paper, if you are opening up another window in your laptop, maybe Google Docs or Microsoft Word, let's use this question as our journal entry number 6 for you guys to free write a response. So don't think about this as, oh, she wants me to write an essay. No, I just want you to write a 15-minute response to this question. What comes to mind? What areas can you attempt to specifically pinpoint that have helped you to improve as a reader? What areas or concepts presented in class has helped you to improve as a writer? And again, what has helped you to improve as a critical thinker? Let's think on that. Let's brainstorm on that and let's free write about 15 minutes in response to this question. Okay, can we do that?
Excuse me, Mrs. Cole.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I have trouble right here to understand what we are doing right now.
You have trouble.
What's the purpose? We have to answer this question, the first question.
Oh, I can't hear you at all. Hold on real quick, Elias. Let me try to change my, I'm sorry. I can't hear you at all. Okay, if you just speak up just a tad bit louder for me.
I was saying, so we have to write down a new essay, right?
Yeah, it's in preparation for the final CRT. Let's first consider the question. So right now, what I'm asking you guys to do is very similar to what we do with our journal entries. We take time in class for you guys to respond to the prompt. So you guys are responding to this prompt that you see on the screen in front of you. The question is, in what ways have you grown and developed as a reader, writer, and critical thinker? So you are writing, similar to what we've done with our journals, in response to the question. 15, 20 minutes if needed, but you are taking time to get your ideas out on paper in response to this question. Hold on real quick, Yamna. Did I help you with that, Elias?
Yeah, what we have to write down now, like you mean
You have to write down now your response to the question that you see on the screen.
I can't, where? I mean, on the journal?
You can either write it, how do you normally turn in your journal entries? Do you write it in a notebook and then take a picture, or do you normally write it in Google Docs or Microsoft Word? How do you normally complete your journals?
Microsoft Word.
Okay,
but
so
how I can pass it to online.
Okay, so either one of those word processing programs will work fine, whatever you normally use. Treat it just as though you are writing a journal entry.
This is the, I had a problem with the, I don't have the link for the journal entry.
It should be right on your screen. Are you guys seeing the prompt on the screen?
No.
Oh, Snizaps.
Yes.
Yeah. I see it.
Okay, I'm confused. Hold on, let me share it again just so I can double make sure. So right now on the screen, Elias, do you see in bold letters, in what ways have you grown and developed as a reader, writer, and critical thinker?
No, I mean, on the screen I see only your, only the Zoom video. I see you. I mean,
okay, so let me post it in here. I'll post it also in chat, so you can see it that you'll have it that way as well. All right, what question did you have for me, Yamna?
Yeah, I don't understand. This is for journal entry question. This is
Yeah,
for
we're
topic.
introducing our introduction to this question. You guys are writing it in a journal before you complete this for the final essay on Monday. So
Okay, this is final essay topic.
no, yeah, this is the final essay topic.
Now you want I write a journal entry about
yes,
this.
I want you just to free write responding to that question.
And where we submit this?
You are submitting this.
In your I sent you
Because we're
email.
going to use.
Can you send?
I'm sorry. Say it again.
Say it again. Where I sent this? Where's I sent this? Email, Google Drive.
You're going to submit it just like you always submit your journals. You guys, this is journal number 6. So treat it as though it is a journal. So we've done 6 of these. So at this point, whether you write it up, however you've completed all of your journals, whether you write it in your Microsoft document or Google Docs, whether you write it in a composition book. I have some students who take pictures. You will carry this out just like you carry out any other journal entry assignment. The goal is for you to respond to the question, free write about it, so get it out on paper, and doing so will help you with the planning and organizing when we come back to this question next Monday. So treat it
Can
just
you
like a
repeat?
journal. However you normally do your journal, that's how you guys would do
Okay.
it now.
Can you repeat again about journal? How I what I write now?
Okay, hold on just a second. So do you see the screen, Yamna?
Yeah.
And I just sent it in chat. You're responding to that question. In what ways have you grown and developed as a reader, writer, and critical thinker?
Okay.
Let's write about 15 minutes just in you responding to that question. Okay, you
One
guys?
paragraph only.
All right, did you guys have any other questions?
Yes. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, about the link. You say you're gonna send me the link.
I'm sorry, say it one more time.
The link of the where we supposed to post this our
You
response.
can email it to me or drop it in Google Drive. So the same way you
Yeah,
submit
we
journals.
need a link for Google Drive.
It's in Brightspace. It's been in Brightspace, you guys. So it's in Brightspace under submission guidelines.
Okay.
And I've kind of instructed you guys to save that as a favorite. So it's always there. You can save it as a bookmark. You can always go back to it. Or if you don't have it, you can email me. All right, go ahead, take time. Let's take a few moments. Let me quickly highlight. This is the question you guys are responding to. All right, so let's take 15 minutes. I'll check back with us maybe in about 20 minutes to see your responses. We can talk about it.
Miss Cole,
Yes, ma'am.
we don't have to have evidence in our journal, right?
No. Yeah, like the journal, treat the journal response like a free write. Just anything that
Okay.
comes to mind while you think about this question,
Okay.
jot it down. Yeah. So how are we doing on this? Do we need oh, it says on screen. Can you guys see the screen? Or are you looking at my email? What are you guys showing on your
Your
screen?
email.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let me stop share. So how are we doing on this? Did we need a little bit more time?
I'm actually done. You just wanted 5 sentences for.
Yes.
Well, as far as parameter, I just want you guys to free write on it for 15 minutes. So however many sentences that produces.
Okay.
It may, hopefully I'm hoping it was more than 5 sentences, but because that's a lot to answer. How have you improved as a reader, writer, critical thinker? I don't know, maybe you guys got it in 5 sentences, but just pretty much 15, 20 minutes of free write is really what I wanted with that. All right. So what do you guys think about this question? Was it a difficult question to write on? How did we feel going through that free write process?
It wasn't too difficult.
Okay.
It was simple for me.
What else do you guys think?
What?
So in responding to that question, was that difficult?
It's okay.
I don't think
Okay.
it was difficult, not this time.
Now, in responding to that question in 5 paragraphs, the first thing that I really want us to keep in mind with that question is consider a direct answer to it. Let me go ahead and share my screen because I did include a couple of notes about this. All right. So you guys were free writing on the question, in what ways have you grown and developed as a reader, writer, and critical thinker? If you remember the CRT essay, quite a few students, especially when I talked to you guys during the midterm conferences, quite a few students told me that you struggled kind of organizing your ideas. You struggled with making sure you completely and specifically answered the question. So one goal I have in giving this prompt to you guys a week in advance is for you to really work on the process, the writing process, where you guys didn't necessarily have that time or a lot of that time on the midterm CRT. Now you have from Monday to next Monday, you have a full week plus our free independent day on Tuesday, you know, if you wanted to use class time that we would normally meet to really start drafting or outlining this. Try not to wait until the last minute on this. I want you guys to put into perspective where we are in the semester. This is the week before your final CRT. So some instruction on this, you guys should have natural reactions to. Okay, my first step is to answer the question, formulate my thesis, plan and organize. Like these are the steps that we've kind of been talking about and working throughout the entire semester or session. So some things I want you to feel that it is automatic. You should automatically know in some cases what to do when you are presented with an essay question. I should know automatically that I am going to write an intro paragraph, body paragraphs, and a conclusion. I should know automatically that my response to this question is going to be my thesis statement. So I should have a clear and direct thesis or main idea in response to this question. I should then make sure I'm using my body paragraphs to support, develop, prove, you know, include any examples or evidence, you know, in order to support again and develop that main idea. So those are things I think, especially in preparing you guys for college level, we should be practicing automatically coming to these conclusions. So I don't want us looking at this essay or this question in such a way that I'm not sure what to do with it. Like at this point in the semester, we should be sure what we're doing when we're responding to this question. So for the free write, what you guys just completed in the free write, we know that that is step 1 of the 5-step writing process. That was your opportunity to get your ideas out on paper, to brainstorm, to really attempt to specifically and directly answer this question. So in your ability to specifically answer this question, did you guys find this a difficult question to answer? And let me hear from a tad bit more of you guys. I think we should be able to answer this question. So I've heard from Shania, you said it was okay. Jamisha, you said it was all right. What about everyone else? I think Yamna said it was okay.
It was okay.
Let's see what I have in my chat. The critical thinking. Okay, I see that, Anthony. I definitely agree with you on that, because when you think about critical thinking, it is an abstract idea, right? So where you're asked to specifically and directly respond to that, right? Critical thinking could be several things, right? So I think that's a good response. All right, we'll talk about that. What else? Look, I'm calling out names. What did you think, Destiny?
I was stuck on the critical thinker too, because that's kind of hard when you're trying to think of it like off the bat.
Okay, but this is an opportunity for you guys to about 20 minutes to kind of really maybe throw some ideas out. So we'll talk about that. What did you think, Tara? I think Tara may have to type. I think she may have to go into chat.
Ms. Cole.
Yes, ma'am.
I was gonna also state, like, in critical thinking, like, I analyze information so I can understand the topic.
Okay, so that was your response, analyzing the information?
I mean, that was one of my responses.
Oh yeah, but I think that's good.
Critical thinking.
Yeah, so you're talking about the overall analysis, right? So that's good.
Yeah.
That is concrete, to where if you were to include that in your main idea or thesis, I think you could then support it with examples, right? In terms of analyzing, you could talk about your annotations. You could talk about how post-reading questions help. So we'll talk about that. Look, what else? Have I heard from Julia? What do you think?
Okay, Ms. Cole.
Yes, ma'am.
About the writing, do you just choose either a reader, writer, or critical thinking, or can you write on all the three?
They want you to respond to all three.
Oh, okay, because I thought I was doing wrong.
Okay, no. Yeah, so we'll talk about, you know, the good thing about you guys submitting it. I see Jamisha already submitted hers via email. The good thing about you guys submitting it is I get to kind of take a look too. And anywhere that I can add, look, let me see if I can. And anywhere that I can add feedback, you know. So I intend to help you guys to find direction with this question, but let's take a look at a few notes I have here. I don't know if you guys noticed this when it was up, but in terms of how have you grown and developed, and I want you guys to think of the word developed as how have you improved? The main thing that your audience, the people who will be grading your CRT, your essay, the main thing that they want to really consider is growth and improvement. That's why the portfolio relies so heavily on your revisions, because they want to see how has the student grown and developed. And if you guys remember our first diagnostic writing, do you remember that first diagnostic writing you guys completed during week 1 about the Jason Oda article?
Yeah.
You guys know that that particular diagnostic is included in the portfolio. So they're looking at, here is the skills the student had coming into the class. Here is how they have worked through practice, through reading, through discussions and activities. Here is how they have used that information to grow. So they'll look at your revised versions. And then that final essay, they're also looking at that to see, here's the writing they had day one, here's the writing they had at the end. They ought to be able to see growth, development, and improvement. So not only should they be able to see that in the writing, you should be able to articulate how you have grown, developed, and improved. So this is all kind of in that same strand of main goal in the class. How has a student grown and improved? So they're looking for that in several different ways. They're looking at it in your portfolio, from that first writing to that last writing. They're looking at it in terms of your CRT score, but students should be able to articulate, here's how I've grown as a reader. Here's how I've improved as a writer. Here's how I've also grown and improved as a critical thinker. So hopefully what you guys were able to come up with in your free write is some specifics. So if you say, I've grown and developed as a reader, some specific details that you can point to. If you guys will look at my annotation here, and my notes here, sorry. One specific way a student can say, I've grown and developed as a reader, you can perhaps say, now I'm able to identify the main ideas in the text. You could also say, I'm able to read utilizing active reading strategies. You can say things like, I'm able to annotate and break down a text so that I'm better to, I'm able to better understand. For each student, the answer to how you have grown and developed as a reader, it will really vary on what skills you had already. So some of you perhaps maybe struggled to find the main idea. So you would want to say, I've grown and developed, and that now I know what to do in order to identify an author's main idea in a text. Maybe you feel like, I've grown in that I know there's a process to reading that I can use to help me get the most out of it. Maybe you can say something like, I've learned that reading isn't a passive activity, it's an active activity. And then outline all of the active ways that you read. You want to make sure you're including some kind of, and even though this is free write, I'm not grading it as an essay. In order for you to use that to help you write your final draft next Monday, you would want to seek out that specifics. You want to seek out direct responses to the question. So that's one way. Look here when it comes to how you guys respond to the ways you've grown and developed as a writer. So you want to specifically point to ways that you yourself as an individual, how have you grown and improved as a writer throughout the semester? So one way you could talk about, maybe you could talk about punctuation awareness, which I don't really think that that's major in terms of growth and improvement. Maybe you too could talk about how the writing process helped. Maybe you could talk about how you learned that if I need help, I need to seek out a tutor. That's growth and development, right? You could also talk about things such as learning basic essay structure helped you to outline or organize your thoughts to write and, to become a better writer. Again, each student will have their own personal idea of how they have grown and developed. But in showing you guys this, I want you to see that nothing is really off limits. So maybe you want to talk about something you've learned in class. Maybe you want to talk about the thesis. You've improved as a writer by knowing the importance or the significance of the thesis statement. So there's various answers to these questions. Again, it will depend on your individual journey, but you guys do want to make sure you're able to point to a way that you've grown and developed in your writing. Again, that is going to be the basis of your thesis statement, your main idea. So you guys pointed out, a couple of you, Destiny and Anthony specifically talked about this whole idea about critical thinking, right? When you think about how you have grown and developed as a critical thinker, Well, that can include what you've done with the knowledge, right? So you can talk about how you have grown as a critical thinker, and that now you are able to tap into a growth mindset, or you're able to read and write with an open mindset, right? So we're talking about how do you think differently now in order to kind of become that college level student. You can talk about how you are aware that, you need to read with intention, right? Seeking out the author's mindset, looking for purpose, considering how your ideas / opinions help to drive an essay. So when it comes to critical thinking, I've given a few examples here, but there are so many others. I think I heard Shania say she learned that she had to analyze the text in order, to be able to write about it. So you can talk about strategies for analyzing the text. You can talk about being aware of an audience, right? Now, when I write, I'm thinking that I'm writing for someone else. There are certain things that I need to make sure my writing includes. So again, for each individual student, it will be different. Some of you may have already known that. So it may be you learned through annotation, through taking notes, that you can question material. So again, I'm kind of throwing a lot of things out at you guys, but that is the purpose of a free write. The free write is to kind of pour it all out on paper. Everything that comes to mind about this text, or sorry, about the question, you want to just pour it out on paper. Then, as you guys go over it, you can identify anywhere you see a particular idea or thought showed up more than once. It showed up again and again. Well, that repetition shows you that may be a main idea for you. That may be a main point. It keeps coming up again and again, right? You can also look at your free write to help you formulate that thesis statement. But you guys are submitting it to me, but also keep in mind, you are keeping it yourself. You will be referring to this journal entry / free write in helping you to plan and organize for the 5-paragraph essay that you guys will be completing next Monday in response to this question. So again, think about everything we've learned, everything we've talked about. Hopefully you got a place you can go in your notes. Hopefully you got a place you can go in, our discussions, class discussions. Where do you keep your notes or information you found useful or pertinent? And go to that as well in helping you identify specifically how you have grown or developed as a reader, writer, and critical thinker. So to help with this, I'm going to post sample essays of this particular text onto Brightspace. So you guys can look at sample student responses. Now, in giving you these samples, I do not want to see these ideas or examples or this information borrowed in your own response on Monday. You guys
I'm
are
scared
only
to read
it. Don't be scared to read it. Now you can use it as inspiration, but we don't want to use it verbatim, word for word. I'm going to kind of use this as my own. That's what we don't want to do. But you definitely can use it as, okay, I see what they did here. Now using your own ideas, I can kind of do it in the same way. Now here's the catch. I have had many a student who have attempted to respond to this question. Some who, let's say, where they may say, I've grown in thesis development or I've grown in essay development, when you look at their portfolio, you can kind of see that, well, that's not lining up with what I see in terms of your writing. So you want to be honest in your response. You don't want to just try to turn in something as fluff. You don't want to just try to turn in something to get through an assignment. You want to be genuine in your response, in that this essay question is used to accompany the portfolio, in that what you tell me, how you tell me you've grown and developed, I ought to be able to see that growth and development in your writing. I ought to be able to see that growth and development in the documents that I have in front of me. So you don't want to say, I've grown in that, I know how to, let's say, formulate an effective thesis statement, when we can look at paper after paper after paper and see that that has been an area where there hasn't been any particular growth or development. So you want to be genuine. You want to really speak to what you can provide evidence about, because you guys will look at this. Consider this almost as an exit interview question, that someone is asking you this question face to face, and they're kind of looking at your resume, they're looking at your documents, and so your response doesn't have to be one that's false, but it should be one that's genuine and sincere. Even if you feel that you haven't grown in thesis, maybe you feel that you've grown as a reader and that now you know what not to do, right? But your response should be genuine. Your response should be true, and it should be one that, by looking at your writing, by looking at everything that you've done in class over the semester, I can say that absolutely the student has grown in that area. They sure have. Where they struggled here, I can see now that there's fewer fragment sentences, there are fewer run-on sentences, there are less of those errors. That's what you want to include, what you can prove, okay? So we're going to get a little bit more practice with this. We'll talk a little bit deeper about this on Wednesday. But what I want you guys to do with the journal free write that you just completed, yes, send it to me, but also use it as your opportunity to develop, to plan and organize for that final paper on Monday. Okay, so what do you guys think about that? What questions, thoughts, ideas? What are we thinking? Look, nothing yet.
Sounds like a plan. I was talking. I was on mute. I'm sorry.
And I'm guessing that, look, normally I fuss Jamisha. I'll be like, let me give everybody else a chance, but it looks like they're waiting too on somebody else to say it first. But let me show you guys this here. Here, what you guys see what I have highlighted? Hold on, let me pull my. You guys can kind of see what I have highlighted here. This is my attempt to formulate a thesis statement to this question. So just keep in mind what you guys know about thesis statements. It is the single most important sentence in your essay, and it will normally communicate how you plan to discuss your growth and development, okay, throughout the semester. So this one breaks it down. I have grown and developed, and you guys see how I underlined that. It's important that that language, if not grown and developed, I have improved. It's important that that language is there because that is the topic. We're talking about your growth and your development, or your improvement, whichever you prefer. So similar to when you guys wrote that first essay about what article motivated you the most. Motivation or inspiration, that was the topic. So you want to make sure you're not leaving that language out. Again, it points back to your topic. So it says, I have grown and developed as a reader, writer, and critical thinker by, and here I specifically point to the areas that I feel I have grown or improved in. So I have grown and developed as a reader, writer, and critical thinker by annotating and engaging in the text, practicing the 5-step, and that should say 5-step writing model, and by making connections to the text. So these 3 elements, annotating and engaging in a text, we know that talks about reader, how you've grown as a reader. Practicing the 5-step writing model, we know that that talks about how you've grown and developed as a writer. And by making connections to the text, really digs deeper into critical thinker. How are you connecting with or thinking about the text? So a simple statement in response to that question, which I know it's not simple, you guys. So I don't want to say simple as in you guys should just simply be able to come up with that. That's not what I mean when I say simple. I mean a simple sentence. You know, a single sentence is what helps you to formulate your thesis, right? So here we have the 3 areas that we plan to discuss about our growth and development throughout the summer. So you guys will see here. Now, once I have that thesis, I take it through a outlining phase. We're organizing it. Will they let me scroll down a tad bit? Let me see, hold on. Okay, here it is. All right, so you guys will be using your own free write to start the planning and organize phase, okay? So once you go through everything that you wrote, once you take a look at what you feel adequately pinpoints how you've grown and developed, you'll formulate your thesis, and now we start to plan. So I know in my body paragraph 1, I am going into further detail about how I have improved, grown, and developed through the use of annotation and engaging in the text. So my body paragraph may lay out how I use annotation, how I use seeking out the author's main idea, how I use identifying vocabulary or unfamiliar words, how I use all of those steps to engage in the text. But it is my opportunity to go into deeper detail with examples, with what earlier I heard Jamisha say, with evidence that shows or proves this growth and development, right? Same with body paragraph 2, or what says body paragraph 1? That should say 2. I have already laid out in my thesis that I have grown as a writer by practicing the 5-step writing process. So now when I go into my body paragraph, I'm going to go into further detail and explanation as to how the 5-step writing model has helped me to grow and develop. You guys see how it keeps going back to that topic. We're discussing growth and development / improvement. So you guys see that here. This helps me to outline, stay on task, not veer off and talking about or bringing in other ideas that are irrelevant to the main idea. So you guys see again, I've grown and developed as a critical thinker by making connections to the text. So in my body paragraphs, I'm going to specifically discuss or explain how, making connections to the text has helped me to improve. So I can talk about participating in post-reading questions, our discussions in class. I can talk about things such as journal writings have helped you to kind of really think about meaning or other things. Nothing is off limits in terms of what has helped you. You guys can pull anything out of that toolbox that we've covered, that we've talked about, that has helped to give you a better understanding or better idea, in terms of how you critically think about what you read. So hopefully, look, what we've done is just step 1. So step 1 is generate ideas, brainstorm. So we have brainstorms. That'll be first. You guys will take the week and time to move on to step 2, which is now plan and organize. That's where we pull off and formulate our thesis statement. Organizing is kind of outlining. And then from there, we start first draft. We begin kind of drafting or writing and seeing how the ideas work together. You guys are given something that none of my other art courses are given. They do not normally get the final CRT essay question ahead of time. But because I know I won't say issues. I don't think it was a major issue for the midterm CRT, but there was some apprehension. Sometimes we were a little bit unsure of how to answer the question or how to approach it. Because I know we struggle with that a tad, I want you guys to get the essay question early. Think about it, plan for it, organize for it, so that when you are completing that final CRT, you are able to execute a 5-paragraph essay. If you already have it drafted out, if you already have it outlined, that will only help you in kind of, completing that or executing that for the final CRT. So plan to prepare for that assignment. Okay, you guys? Did you have any questions for me before I kind of move on from this? Not yet. You guys are aware this is our last week of meeting. So if you think of anything, the time and space for you to, you know, kind of really work through it, we have a small window from now till next Monday is really when you guys have to kind of do something with this question. So if you think of any struggles, any clarifications that you need, email me, reach out, okay? Try not to wait to the last minute to submit Journal 6. I still, in some cases, wink, wink, have not received Journal 5. With us moving into our last weeks of class, I am loudly declaring, do not flood me with late assignments, you guys. It will not, it just won't be counted, okay? So I know a lot of times when I enter grades, you guys will notice that, oh, she entered grades, but I don't have it. Well, let me just shoot it to you real quick. We want to get things in a timely fashion because next week, the only thing I'm grading is the CRT and final essays. I'm not grading anything else. So I've kind of sent emails out to students, especially those who have quite a few assignments lagging or missing. I kind of gave you guys a window, a deadline to get those in. Next week, when we move into final CRT, no late assignments. I'm not accepting them. I'm not discussing them. We're just moving into closing out the semester, okay? So that brings me back to our discussion of Sandra Cisneros' only daughter. And I see that you guys submitted that. I've started reading through it, but I know it wasn't technically due until today, right? I think right at 12:30, I think was the cutoff or deadline. So I'm still in the process of reading your responses to that, but I did want to talk a little bit about that today before moving on, because the purpose of that assignment was to, again, walk you guys through what you're doing with that final CRT. So let me quickly look at, and the students who have submitted that already is Tara, Shania, Yamna, Elias, Jamisha, Tamicia, Robert. So if you have not submitted that assignment, you will not be involved in our discussion. So I'll be creating a breakout room where the discussion of this particular assignment is kind of, wait, I'm thinking, should I do this? Hold on. Because it's gone anyway. So if it hasn't been submitted at this point, I am not taking it. Can we say that? Is that fair? Or should I put you in the breakout room? I'll put you in the breakout room because anyone who
I think you should do the breakout.
I think so too. Anyone who hasn't turned it in as of yet, I can open it back up to the end of day today, so you'll still have time to get it in if you haven't. But beyond today, look, it's RIP. We're putting that to bed, okay? So let me, okay, cool, Anthony, I see you. All right, so I see a Nokia 3.1. Who signed in with that Nokia? Who is this?
This is my phone.
Oh, okay, that's you as well. Okay, all right. Sorry, Elias. Don't worry about that. Let me then, yeah, let's talk about it. And we're going to only talk about it briefly. So in that breakout room, hold on. That means based on who's here, Julie, Jewel, Destiny, Jennifer. That's I'm putting you guys in another room while we discuss the assignment that was due today. Now, did I miss? Yeah, hold on. All right, let me. Optus. Hold on, you guys. I'm closing that. Hold on. All right, is this my people? Hold on, wait a minute, just a second. Okay. So Destiny, you should be in breakout room 1. I can add you manually. Okay, you guys, I think I have everybody. And before I just go ahead and go full-fledged, let me go back to the assignment and see that I haven't put anybody in there unnecessarily. Hold on really quickly. Oh yeah, look, I got about 5 more, well, about 2 more since I've last. So Yamna, Elias, Tamicia, Jamisha. Oh, some of you guys are just adding more. Okay, Anthony. All right, I'm good. Okay. So let's talk about this, you guys. What did you guys think about this assignment? The, where are you?
I felt like it was relatable.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. I got us all in the room. Okay, you guys, hold on one second. I'm thinking I may have to add us individually. Let me try it one more time. No, they say you guys should be in this room. Okay. Okay, I see them. All right, let's talk.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm looking because I see people kind of going in and out of that break room 1. So let me reiterate.
Oh, okay.
If you did not submit the Only Daughter assignment by Sandra Cisneros, you are asked to join breakout. Oh, here it is. Breakout room. Let me put a couple of people. Okay, good. All right. Other than that, I think we're all there. Okay, let's talk about this, you guys. I haven't scored the summary yet, but I'm working on that, and I haven't scored the essay portion yet. But I wanted to talk about your answers to the questions. So let me pull these questions up really quickly. All right, so let's talk about this really quickly. So what you read in Sandra Cisneros' Only Daughter, and this is our last reading and closing out the section on language and identity, right? What you guys saw in that text is a narrative. So where the question asked here, let me use my annotation, where you guys are able to consider, what do you think was the author's purpose? I want us to start to think of what the author is doing with this text. That is normally always connected to their purpose, right? So with this text, we see that Sandra Cisneros, she's telling a story. She's retelling an experience she had growing up in a house as the only daughter. So what did you guys respond? How did you guys respond to this question specifically? What do you think is the author's purpose?
I think she was trying to raise awareness with sexism.
Oh.
That's what I wrote about.
Okay, trying to raise awareness. All right, I see that. What else did you guys add? And there is no wrong answer. I'm just kind of taking a look at what do we have.
The author purpose is to describe her experience.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, she is the only girl in American Mexican family and how it affects her life.
Yes. I think that's good, Yamna. So she said to describe her experience. I see you, Anthony, say to explain. So I'll look a little bit more specifically into your, oh yeah, to explain that just because she's the only one Oh, I see. Yeah, it's almost as though she was attempting to explain her individuality, right? Her individuality. I can see that. All right, I like that. Let's see, what else do we have? Okay, so I want you guys to use that language. So where you stated, Jamisha, to raise awareness. Yamna, you stated to describe. Anthony, you stated to explain. Normally that language will be key to you identifying the correct answer on the CRT. They will always ask you guys, what is the author's purpose in the text? And that question is always rooted in, what is the author trying to tell me? Like, what are they attempting to do with this text? So I like all of your answers. And we'll talk about this idea of raise awareness about sexism. We'll talk about that. But with the response to describe an experience, she is uniquely describing her experience, not only as the only daughter, but also as a writer, how that fits into her culture, right? So when you look at your response to what the author's purpose is, it in turn will point you to the author's main idea. So she is explaining her or describing her experience, explaining her individuality, right? She's seeking out to put a face or an experience to that only daughter, right? So we'll talk about that. Another question I wanted to explore before we kind of dig a little bit deeper into these questions. Let's look at this question here where it says in paragraph 3, how does Cisneros' distinction between only daughter and only a daughter reveal much of what concerns her? Now pause before you guys answer that, because I want to pull up the actual text where we can take a look at that paragraph 3. So hold on just a second. Oh snap. Let me do a new share. All right, do you guys see the text in front of you?
Yeah.
Okay. So they said, let's go to paragraph 3, and let me identify, even though I'm kind of nervous of my skills here. 1, 2, 3. So this is paragraph 3. And here she is. It's a little bootleg, but that's okay. So we see here, look, let me get this question right. In paragraph 3, how does Cisneros' distinction between only daughter and only a daughter reveal much about what concerns her? So this is language, right? It's all about language. She's using language here to really kind of capture her feelings or her attitude, you know, in the text. So it says, I am the only daughter and only a daughter. And you guys see how she italicizes only. She's putting emphasis on the word only. It says, being an only daughter in a family of 6 sons forced me by circumstance to spend a lot of time by myself because my brothers felt it beneath them to play with a girl in public. So girl, you guys see how she italicized that word as well. She's putting extra emphasis on, you know, this particular language. It says, but that aloneness, that loneliness was good for a would-be writer. It allowed me time to think, to imagine, to read, and prepare myself, okay? So if ever I were to ask you guys, you know, what's the author's main idea? You know, this is directly pointing out the author's main idea. You guys can see how it's tied into the title of Only Daughter. Here she's breaking down what that means. So let me see Tara's response. I see that here. So you said you think Cisneros was trying to explain what it was like growing up in a Mexican-American family as the only daughter. Absolutely. Also, she was explaining how she went to college for her education, not to find a husband. Yes. So even in your response, Tara, you are identifying what she means when she uses the word only or only a daughter. So only daughter or only a daughter. So that's good. That's a good start. She is attempting to explain what it means to her personally, kind of growing up in her culture, Mexican American, growing up as the only daughter. But also, she is using it to kind of carve out her own identity, right? So what are some notes you guys have in terms of your response to that question? What did you guys want to add to that? How does she use this language to really make a distinction to kind of help get her point across? What do you guys think?
Oh, Miss Cole,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. Somebody from financial aid had contacted me, so I was out for like 5 minutes.
Oh, that's okay. We are talking about question number, and let me see what question was that. I think that was 4 on the, this is question number 4. In paragraph 3, how does Cisneros' distinction between only daughter and only a daughter reveal much of what concerns her?
Oh,
Okay.
you want me to speak on what I said for that one?
Yeah, I mean, I just was kind of letting you know what we were discussing, in your absence. So,
Oh, okay.
right. So what do you guys think about that? I definitely agree with Tara's answer, but what else do you guys think about that?
For the only daughter, I felt like she felt left out being the only daughter out of 6 brothers. And for only a daughter, and her father eyes based off what he wanted her to be, it concerns her because she wanted him to accept who she was.
Okay. Good. I like that. Yeah, that's a deeper explanation. I mean, it kind of takes the point laid out by Tara, right? That she's, more than a wife, her aspirations go beyond just the title of only daughter or only a daughter. Good. Okay. So I like the explanation. What do you guys want to add to that? You feel anything has been left out? We haven't covered a particular response.
You go ahead, Yamna.
Go ahead, Yamna.
She is the sister of 6 brothers, and she felt lonely because her brother did not want to play with her.
Yeah.
And only a daughter, it means she should get married because that is her father thinks.
Right. Okay, good. So you guys are really kind of honing in on the word only. Only, right, is anytime there's only, you're the only child or only girl or only guy, there is a level of loneliness in that only experience, right? If you're the only, in some cases, is especially when I was in grad school, I was like the only person of color in my class. There is a lack of individuality in that, right? You're only looked at as, that particular, let's say your race, you're only looked at as your gender, you're only looked at, so this language of only is really powerful in that it really speaks to it as a connotation to her experience. To her, only equals loneliness. It equals, kind of relegated to the sideline. She was kind of expected to not play with her brothers, but watch, not really engage in a college experience,
she was meant to be seen
look
and not
for a
heard.
husband. I'm sorry, go ahead, Jamisha.
I feel like they set her up to be seen and not heard.
Yeah, right. So again, this idea of aloneness that you talked about, Yamna, this lonely. Good.
Miss Cole, what you guys say for number 3?
We haven't gone over 3 yet. I've been oh wait, have we gone over 3? Hold on, let me pull it up. We talked about the purpose.
When she was upset with, not upset with her father, I'm sorry. When you said does she explains or proves?
Oh yeah. We came up with for the students who responded. One said, "What was the author's purpose? To raise awareness." Another said to describe her experience, and another student said to explain, I guess her, the position she was in, to explain her perspective as only daughter. So the language used was raise awareness, describe experience, and explain.
Okay.
So that's what we talked about there. But let me go back to the text. What am I doing? I'm doing too much trying to move around in this screen, you guys, so my apologies. But let's look at a couple of ideas I jotted down. Now, did you guys take any annotations when you were completing this assignment?
Yes.
Right? If you didn't get a chance to really, really dig into your annotations, I just want to share with you guys just a couple of annotations I made in reading this. So every time I saw the word only, I underlined it because that is connected to the title, right? So I know it's really rooted in her main point or main idea. So I would look around the word only and look for any explanations she would tie into it. So I said her use of language only is intentional. I said that she points out that her destiny is tied up in her obligation, to the family as the only daughter, or her obligation to society, right, as girl. She felt that she was tied up in these roles, the role of only daughter, or role as girl. Who she was as a person, as an individual, was minimized. And I think you said something similar to that, Shania. It says at the end, we're going to talk about the end. Oh, yeah, so we'll talk about the end. Look, I don't want to get ahead of myself. So let's look really quickly at this second question here. What do you guys think upsets Cisneros? What upsets the author about her relationship between her and her father? She talked extensively about, what was problematic about her relationship with her father. So what do you guys want to add to that?
He didn't understand her.
It was, yeah, that's good, Jamisha. Who she truly was, she felt like he didn't see who she truly was, right? Again, she was kind of being relegated to this only box, right? You are just only a girl and you're only, the only daughter. And
but she wanted him to look at her as being his daughter, and that's as a writer.
Exactly. I like you added
to be respected.
She wanted to be respected, which is that's a human nature quality, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she had, and we saw it again and again, that pretty much the entire text was about that relationship between her and her father. So it wasn't that he didn't love her, it wasn't that she wasn't cared for, but she felt like who she was as an individual wasn't really acknowledged. So what else did you guys want to add to that? So what upsets her about that relationship between her and her father? I like what you added.
It was a quote also up in the reading.
Okay.
What she said, I wanted my father to understand what it was I was scribbling, to introduce me as my only daughter, the writer, not as this is my only daughter.
Right. So again, it goes to identity. And every time I teach this unit on language and identity, a lot of times people don't really see how our identity is tied up in, let's say, the language we use. By saying only daughter, he says so much about who she is. Like, she's nothing but a daughter, right? If we look at only, it could be nothing but a daughter, right? So who she is, her individual identity, is really being ignored, right? It's really being minimized overall. Good. What else did you guys want to add to that?
About the relationship, her father, how her father belonged to her. He always tells people he has 7 sons.
Yeah.
She was upset because her father protect her. She is not a son.
Yep. That's a good point, Yamna.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did somebody else want to say something?
She felt excluded.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good way of kind of tying in Yamna's point that anytime her father would talk about his kids, he would say, I have 7 sons, when technically he
Yeah.
has 6 sons and 1 daughter. So even in how he talked about his kids, and I don't think her father intentionally did this. Like, even in her language, she still lovingly referred to her father, but it's kind of the condition that she's really speaking on, the condition of being the only daughter. A lot of times she was not acknowledged. She was not seen. Who she was as an individual was minimized to wife or to just finding a husband, right? So good. I'm glad you brought that quote up about the I have 7 sons. I have that written down directly because was he aware that she was aware that he was doing that? You know what I mean? She, as a child, was very aware that anytime he even introduced his kids, she was excluded. You know, she was left out. So to say over and over again, I have 7 sons, I have 7 sons, is to completely disregard her, right?
Yeah.
Now maybe you said I have 7 kids, you know, that's or 7 children, but to say I have 7 sons, that is specific in leaving out the daughter, right? So again, tying into her point of only daughter / only a daughter, right? And I think back, I've been watching quite a few of historical pieces in terms of either documentaries or movies. And back in, you know, let's say like medieval times, right? The value was in sons, right? Anytime, especially in furthering the name and furthering, you know, the family, let's say dynasty, it was always valued. You know, the wife who could give you sons, right, was always considered preferable, right? So this idea of daughter as invisible or daughter as minimal is really historically, like that goes back historically. So good. What else? Let me see. Moving on from this, what kind of relationship or reaction does she want from her father? And you guys kind of answered this in your responses. She wants him to acknowledge her, you know, to kind of see her for who she is. Shania, you specifically said as a writer, right? In her pursuits of college, being an English major, you know, writing. At the time, she said when she wasn't making a lot of money, it still was something that was important to her to have that acknowledgement. She just simply didn't have it with her family. But did you guys see what happened at the end of the story, where her father, I believe he was sick. He was, you know, a little bit in his older age, and like, did you guys see that shift in the relationship?
Yes, it made her
Yes.
more, you know, it made her more happier after
Yep.
he read her writing.
Yep. And not only did he read it, I mean, and I think previously in the text she had talked about how he stayed away from reading anything, right? He normally did not want to read. So she was worried that he would never see the value in her work. But when she included him, so perhaps maybe he never read because he never saw himself in a text, right? When he was able to read her text and identify, oh, she's talking about places that we've been. She's talking about things that I've taught her. She's talking about experiences that she has had as my child or as my only daughter. Like, did you see how it engaged him? She talked about how he laughed in all the right places. She said he read it over and over again. And I don't know, look, maybe I'm corny. You guys know that I'm, you know, kind of this writer, you know, English teacher. That was such a moving part of the text because I don't think it was always that he didn't see value in writing or in reading. Maybe it was more so that he didn't see himself in what he was reading, and the fact that his daughter, who had perhaps in the past been minimized or not acknowledged, or her talents and gifts not always supported, for him to kind of really look at what she's done with it in terms of not only the language, but conveying the experiences, I know he had to be proud. And that, again, was the relationship or reaction she had always wanted from him, right? So did you guys notice that?
I caught that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, it gave me the feels, because it did, because it almost reminded me of the Amy Tan story, especially where she talked about she writes because of her mother. Like she writes to include the awareness of that audience, the person who's normally forgotten. Oh, wait a minute. I see a response here in my chat. Let me see. It says, at the end of the reading, I felt like Cisneros finally got the acceptance from her father she longed for her whole childhood. Absolutely. Just by reading her writing, I think he did more than he understood, right? She always wanted him to see her as a writer. That was it. Don't see me as only daughter. Don't see me as, going to school to be someone's wife or to look for a husband, but, kind of acknowledge the work I do, my interest, what I enjoy. And I agree, Tara. She did at the end get that acceptance and that acknowledgement. So I can't wait to see how you guys wrote about this in your essay. Did you struggle with this essay question where you guys had to write on, do you think parents should make different plans and have different expectations for their sons and daughters?
No.
Right, you felt like you could relate to that. I think I heard you say that earlier, Jamisha, that when you feel you can relate to it, that's that connection. When you have some type of connection, it does make it easier for you to respond or write to. So, okay, look, I can't wait to read it. But just to quickly just get a quick, I guess, response or check the temperature. What do you guys think? Do you think that parents should make different plans and have different expectations for their daughters and sons?
No.
I heard no from Yamna. What else?
I feel like they should have the same expectations for sons and daughters.
All right, Anthony, you said that you think they shouldn't. Okay. Good. I can't wait to see the reasons why you guys attach that to, the reasons why you attach to your response. I know that my thinking on this has changed. I used to really think you did have to be stricter with daughters. I used to think that they needed protection. I know we talked about this before when we talked about the connotation of the word. But just in growing and maturing and kind of seeing what goes on, in the world around me, I've definitely shifted my thoughts on that. So I can't wait to see what you guys add to that. But if anything, what I want you to take away from your process of completing this assignment is very similar to the short answer questions you guys will be responding to on that final CRT. They're going to ask you questions like, in your own words, what do you think about, when the author said X, Y, and Z? So this is good. Even our discussion was really good I could pinpoint through your responses, your comprehension of the text. I could see what you guys were able to pull from the text. And as long as you're able to communicate that, articulate that, I think you guys will do well. All right, let me go ahead and bring all of us back together. So if I close all rooms, is this going to close it? Oh, I'm nervous. All right, let me see. Okay, so it's giving everybody a little bit of idea that the breakout rooms are closing. Do I got everybody back? Okay, good. I got Jewel with me. I don't see Julia. Who else am I missing? I'm missing. Okay, so I may have lost a few. That's okay. At least I hope. Let me make sure I'm moving. So Jennifer, let me pull her back with us. Okay, she's with us. Am I missing you, Jennifer? Okay. Forgive me, you guys. I'll get it together one of these days. All right. Something else I wanted to show you in the module before we get out of here. There you are. Hi, Julie. Okay. All right. Let me show you guys really quickly. Oh yeah, okay, we got a little bit of time on this. Do I want to talk about this? Hold on, let me mute. All right, let me pull up another document I wanted to share with you guys on the art of quoting. And I can get through this, I think, in the next 20 minutes. So as you guys were completing your answers for the only daughter essay question, did any of you use quotes from the text to help you support your explanation or your position as to why you've, what do you think about daughters and sons being raised differently? Did you guys use any text, quotes from the text to help you support your response?
Yes.
I heard Julie say yes.
Yes.
Okay, I heard Shania say yes. All right, good.
Miss Cole.
Yes, ma'am.
I use the quote outside of the text. Like, how we can do that, right? That might be a crazy question.
Normally, I guess as long as you cited that quote. So
yeah, I cited it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
But normally when you guys are reading and writing in response to a text, they will ask you to use textual evidence. So you guys saw that in your CRT essay response. They said use personal experience or evidence from the text in your response.
I did a little bit of all of it.
Okay, all right, good. That's good practice. What I wanted to talk to you guys about briefly is ways to help you use that textual evidence, incorporate those quotes as supporting details in your text. So let me share my screen with you really quickly. I've posted this, and it's a little bright now that I look at it, but I've posted this presentation under week 7 module because it's what I teach in the English 101 class. So you guys will get a little bit of a heads up on that, but also where you are being asked to use textual evidence. So where they're asking you to use the author's words, use examples from the text. There is a way that you can integrate your ideas with the ideas of others without losing your voice or without blurring the lines between plagiarism. So when I saw things with your responses in your summary, or where I would see your responses in the essay portion of the CRT, or even with the essay 1, the one that you guys completed on motivation, I could see students using quotes, but I wouldn't always see that those quotes are used appropriately. So I want to talk to us about appropriate ways of quoting from the text and incorporating that in our responses, okay? So it's referred to as the art of quoting. But let me give you guys a couple of examples or tips that I think could help make this process a tad bit easier. What we want to make sure we don't do, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally, is we don't want to take anything that the author said and not give them their proper credit. You guys will move on out of this class and you'll go into a 101 course, and they will flag you. They will literally say, this is plagiarism. So they will want you to have some idea of when borrowing or using quotes, or even if you take that information and put it in your own words, you still need to always point back to where this information came from. So let's talk about, first of all, why we quote, right? So quoting helps writing effective arguments. So it really helps writing strong and effective essays as well. Anytime you can quote from a text, you can show comprehension or mastery of that text. It definitely speaks to college level skills, but it also shows a level of sophistication in your writing. So it says here that one of the best ways to write an effective argument or essay is to include the ideas of others. The best way to do this is not only by summarizing, we know summarizing is important, but also by looking at what they say. So that's the text, and quoting that information or paraphrasing that information for yourself. It says quoting someone else's words gives a tremendous amount of credibility to your writing. So again, it shows clearly that that student knows what they're talking about. They have read, not only read the text, but they can consider and discuss that text in their own writing. So quoting is really important in establishing credibility of the author and in helping you to seamlessly move from your ideas to the ideas of others, okay? So when you do quote, especially when you guys are looking at things like textual evidence, right, where you're being asked to bring in the text to your explanation, you don't want to quote too little. So I noticed this with the first essay. When you guys wrote about, which article motivated you, let me get whatever this beeping is. Look, can I get somebody to mute? Let me mute. Look, can you mute yourself, Elias? I don't think I have the option. But if you guys will just mute yourself so that we're kind of not picking up that feedback. You don't want to quote too little. So as you guys are moving to other classes, maybe your one-on-one, I normally tell my students, make sure you are incorporating at least 3 quotes from the text. So I give them a quote quota, okay? To really make sure you are including textual evidence, I need to see at least 3 quotes from the text that you guys are responding to, right? So you don't want to quote too little. So anything less than that, I would consider too little, but not for you guys. I'm just kind of using this as an example. When you do quote too little, what you are showing your audience is this paper is driven all by my opinion. Now that is okay when you're writing, let's say, narratives, or when you're writing opinion pieces. But as you guys are making the move of writing about a text, as you begin to write about research and incorporate that research, opinion alone is not strong enough. Unless you are an expert on that topic, you will need to bring in the ideas of others. You will need to kind of bring in quotes or information from outside sources. Doing so establish you as a credible writer. This person is well read on this topic. This person has a certain expertise for me to kind of buy into what it is that they're saying. So when we're talking about reading comprehension, your use of quotes, of including that textual evidence, look, my little crybaby dog, it shows that you have read. So it establishes you as credible in that not only have they read, they can now talk about and quote what they've read. So it gives you credibility. All right. You also don't want to be that writer that quotes too much. And we talked about this with summaries. In quoting too much, now your words, hold on. Thank you, babe. Okay. You don't want to quote too much because now your voice has been erased and it's just a paper of all of the quotes or ideas of your source or of your text. So you want to kind of strike a fine balance anytime you are quoting from a text or including textual evidence. What you are doing is you're integrating your ideas, which is either your thesis or your main point, but you are supporting it with the text. So there needs to be a balance between your ideas and the ideas of your supporting details, okay? So again, you don't want to quote too much. In doing so, what you end up with is essays that are very short on insight, essays very short on ideas, and lacking substance. So one thing you guys know about me, when we talk about your writing. I have always promoted you guys' ability to include your ideas. I love reading your ideas, what you think about things. So you don't want to lose that, but you can also bring in the text to help support and develop or emphasize your idea. So again, quoting requires kind of meeting this balance. Some writers assume that quotes speak for themselves. So, you know, as beginning writers, some students think, well, I can just leave a quote and bam, boom, I have my evidence. Or, well, she said she needed me to throw in an example from the text. Well, here's my quote, so I've thrown in an example from a text. Quotes don't speak for themselves. You use a quote and then explain that quote in order to connect it back to your main idea. It operates as evidence or supporting details. So you want to always add that explanation for your audience. Don't assume that your audience just knows what you mean when you drop a quote, or they know how that applies or connects to your main idea. It is your job as a writer to make those connections. So again, when we think about quoting, you don't want to quote too little. You know, so you don't want to not bring in the text at all, especially when you're talking about the text. You also don't want to quote too much, so you don't want to lose your voice and, you know, lose substance or ideas in the text. You want to strike a balance where there is a integration of your ideas and the ideas of the text work to support or emphasize your idea. So we want to stay mindful of that. And lastly, don't make your audience have to work too hard with your quotes. Don't just drop a quote and then boom, bam, you know, they'll know what I mean. It really is your job as writer to explain it, to make the connection. Here in the text, you know, Malcolm X stated X, Y, and Z. You know, here it shows that, you know, education or knowledge was important to him, and just like it was important to him, it's important to me. It's up to you guys to add that commentary. Don't assume that quotes speak for themselves. So again, we just talked about that integration between your ideas and the ideas of the text. And this is why annotation is so important. You want to make sure that you are choosing your quotes wisely. So once you know where you stand, you know, where we just talked about the Sandra Cisneros text, do you feel that daughters or sons should be raised differently? You want to look for quotes in the text that support your position on that. You want to look for quotes that you can use specifically to promote, support, or further how you feel or what you think about it. And a lot of times these quotes are identified when you are annotating. When you're annotating, anything that makes you shake your head yes, normally students will circle that or underline it. So that's a quote. If you agreed with that, when asked, do you agree or disagree with the author's main idea, you can go directly to the text and identify, here's a quote that I agree with that can support, you know, my response to that answer. Maybe you put a question mark by a particular quote because you don't agree with it. You find it problematic. Well, that quote can help you in explaining why you disagree with the text. So again, look at the ways that using the text, using your annotations, your notes, how you engage with the text, it all applies when we look at using quotes, right? Choosing your quotes wisely. You don't want to include irrelevant quotes, something that has nothing to do with the point that you're talking about. So always consider how well that quote can help you support your argument, okay? And a lot of times this starts with annotations. Let me show you guys where I am. All right, so look here. Surround every major quotation with a frame that explains, you know, whose words that you are using or quoting, what that quotation means, and how it relates to your own argument. So this is what I call the art of quoting. It isn't just boom, I drop a quote on you. There's somewhat of a science or an art to this. I'm including this quote to support my point. So in using that quote, I first have to explain to you whose quote this is, where did I get this information, then explain to you how that quote ties into my main argument or point. So it's a little dance we play when we use, when we want to quote appropriately, okay? Lastly, there must be a connection between the quote and your key idea. You guys aren't just randomly selecting quotes to drop. This quote, you selected it because it helps to support and develop your main idea. So I've seen you guys work at this and practice this. I'll get a better look as I finish grading your revised essays, but consider this as we prepare for the final CRT. All right, so we just talked about, let me get rid of this. We just talked about this whole idea of using a frame anytime we quote. I want to talk about what this frame will look like. So I just talked about this. Quotes don't speak for themselves. Don't assume that your audience will know why you used or selected a particular quote. It is up to you to make that explanation for your reader. So you want to avoid what I call dangling quotations, and that is quotes that are left without any explanation or connection to your main idea. And you also want to avoid what I call hit and run quotations, and that is just when an author just throws a quote out there and then moves on to, you know, their next point. So you just kind of hit me with the quote and you moved on while I'm still wondering, what did this quote mean? How does this quote relate? So dangling and hit and run quotations are somewhat of the same vein, in that you want to explain your quotes. You want to tie them back into your main idea, okay? So let's look at how we can do that. There's what I call a quote sandwich, which I know that's somewhat corny, but I always look at ways that I can help students to better understand it. So consider a quote as having several parts, right? We're kind of assembling a quote in, let's say, by using like the parts, various parts, as though we are assembling a sandwich. So first thing we want to lay out there is the topic sentence or statement that introduces the quote. So you guys may be familiar with what this looks like. Maybe you have seen, according to Maria Popova in Fixed versus Growth Mindset. And then from there you move into, here's that quote. Well, that topic sentence, that statement of according to, or the author states, that helps you to set up the quote by identifying whose words these are, you know, what article or text did I get this information, so that you eliminate the risk of plagiarism. That small, simple statement, introduction statement, helps you to cite your source, let your reader know that these are not my words, I'm not attempting to use them or pass them off as my own. And again, it also gives that credibility that you are actually engaged with and incorporating the text. So you want to start first with, I'll come here, an introductory statement. So you want, before you drop a quote, you need to introduce who, you know, words am I quoting, where did I get this from, what text. So who and what shows up in that introductory statement. You then would move on to, here's my relevant quote. And then we just talked about, you want to make some type of connection using that quote. How did this quote just connect back or prove my main idea? Okay, so let me show you guys what this will look like. Look, our last 5 minutes or so. Now, again, this is what I normally present in my 101 class. So look, if you guys are taking me for 101, you will probably see this presentation again. But my main goal in using it in this class is, when using textual evidence, when you are adding quotes, I just want you guys to be aware of how to do so appropriately. So it may not look like this, but I want to show you guys, you know, these working parts. Can I make this? Hold on really quickly. Let me try to make this center screen. Look, my puppy is really tripping. All right. So hopefully you guys can see this just a tad bit better. But okay, this is an example of what a properly integrated quote could look like. So they say open up with a topic sentence. So here it says, the feminist philosopher Susan Bordeaux deplores Western media's obsession with female thinness and dieting. Her basic complaint is that increasing numbers of women across the globe are being led, that should be LED, led to see themselves as fat and in need of a diet. So this example, the student is taking it even further. They're going to summarize the main idea of that text before they quote from it. So here you see something a tad bit different, where they're kind of giving you a summary of the text that they're about to use, giving you a summary of what the ideas are, the main idea of that particular text. So look here. Oh, snap. Sorry. Look here where you see in black, citing the islands of Fiji as a case in point, Bordeaux notes. So just by saying Bordeaux notes, we are using the author's name. And of course, we have that strong verb in setting up the quote. So you clearly see these are not my words. I am letting you know this is what the author has stated. So Bordeaux notes that, and you see the quotation marks, until television was introduced in 1995, the islands had no reported cases of eating disorders. End of quotation marks. So there is our relevant quote. We have that introductory statement where we are identifying whose words these are. So we see Bordeaux notes. And then you guys look here at the last sentence. I have it in black and underlined. This is that connection or explanation of how that quote ties into my main idea. So I'm pointing out the relevance. Why did I use this quote? Well, here's my explanation.
Also, this is your link, right?
Yes, exactly. Good. Yeah. This is my link or my opportunity to connect the quote to my main idea. So it says, ultimately, Bordeaux complains that the culture of dieting is influencing us no matter where we live. So let me show you how that ties back into the main point. Well, they talked about the main point being that, you know, there's this obsession with dieting and being thin. So in using this quote, until television was introduced in 1995, the islands had no reported cases of eating disorders. So now they have all of these eating disorders, but it really came from this promotion, you know, based on what they saw on TV. So that ties into the main idea of Western media's obsession. So through TV, which is media, Western media is pretty much what you'll watch on TV in the United States. It wasn't until they saw these images that this whole culture of dieting began to influence them. So she connects that quote to the main idea. Ultimately, the culture of dieting is influencing us no matter where we live. So the main point is not lost in the introduction of the quote. It's not lost. It's definitely emphasized in this final explanation here. So I like what someone said, it's the link. It is that connection to, here's the quote that I use, but here's how it connects to the point that I am trying to make. Okay, so you guys see that here. Look, how am I doing on time? I think it is about time for us to get out of here. All right, so we're right at 2:30. So my final thoughts on this is always think that I should, when using quote or textual evidence, you're blending the author's words with your own. You are using the author's words in only to promote, support, explain, or detail your ideas, okay? So it says the art of quoting requires that the writer, arguer, blends the words of their source with their own, and that they include relevant quotes that helps to prove their main point. So we're not, now that we've used the author's quote, now we're not shifting to the author's idea. It's still all in support of, in relation to furthering your main point, supporting your main idea. So make sure that that isn't lost. We'll talk more about works cited page when you guys get to the 101 course, but let me go ahead and get out of this. So I actually went through it to add the discussion. You guys will have the opportunity in week 7 module to go through it just to kind of review the information. Whether you are using direct quotes, so you guys saw the quotation marks, that means this is word for word what the author said, or if you are paraphrasing, and that is taking the author's ideas and putting them in your own word. Whether you quote directly or paraphrase, that idea still belongs to someone else. So you want to always make sure you are including the quote, including the author statement. So according to Susan Bordeaux in blah, 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 she states, and then you guys just saw in the example, it said Bordeaux notes. Something that points back to the ownership. Who said these words? Who does these ideas belong to? You want to always cite your source. I saw this in that first paper where some students just removed quotation marks and just full-fledged used the Maria Popova's or Jason Oda's words and didn't mention them at all, didn't give them any credit. It was worked into your writing as though you said those things. And you want to stay away from that at all costs. I know whether students do it intentional or unintentional, it still is plagiarism, okay? So what can help us with that is making sure we set up our quotes by identifying who said this, okay? And since we are writing in response to a text, it's very easy to point back to the text. In Malcolm X Learning to Read, in Maria Popova's Fixed versus Growth Mindset, she states, or she notes, or however you guys would like to set it up. All right, so with that being said, I am letting us go to consider a few things. If you haven't turned in that journal 6 that we completed yet, make sure you get that to me. I want to kind of take a look, but in me taking a look, do not forget that it is for you. It is brainstorming for you. It's for you to kind of really read through it, take a look at what are my ideas in helping you to formulate your thesis. So when we see each other again on Wednesday, that's where we'll pick up the discussion. I'll also post samples of that reflective or that CRT essay that so you guys can kind of look at samples to see, how did another student respond to this question? What should this paper look like? And I'm not trying to scare you guys. Use it as a sample, not as this is, oh yeah, that's what I'm doing my paper too, right? So look at it like that. Lastly, what was my lastly point? Don't forget that Tuesday should be set aside, even though we're not in class together. That time could be set aside for you guys to get some homework done. So there is some practice I want you guys to do with the sentence types. You guys can see that in the week 7 module. So that'll be homework. I think there's 8 questions. Okay, I'll tell my son. So you guys can answer those 8 questions in identifying, is this sentence simple, compound, complex, compound, complex. So I'll add that to Brightspace, but everything within week 7 module, that's what you guys are working to read and or complete this week. So I think that's all. I think that's all I want to give you guys. Homework will be reading through your journal 6, that question, start formulating the thesis, start drafting, do whatever you need to do to kind of really get a head start on that essay assignment, and also complete the sentence types handout. So that's what we'll talk and discuss in preparation for Wednesday's class. Okay, you guys?
Only the sentence, that's the homework, and then preparation for the CRT.
Yep.
Okay.
That's all I'm
Thank
giving
you,
you.
Ms.
I'm
Cole.
trying not to hit you with too much. All right, and everything else we'll cover on Wednesday. Okay, we're in the home stretch, you guys. Next week, Monday, that technically, we can say technically, will be the last day of class. However, we know the semester doesn't end until that Wednesday, which is July 22nd. So what I'm hoping to do on July 22nd Wednesday is to give you guys the results of what your CRT is. Here is the final placement. So any late or lingering assignments, get them in ASAP, because next week we're all about closing out the semester, okay? All right, you guys, if you have any questions, email me. And I will see you all on Wednesday.
Okay, have a good day.
All right, you
Have a
too.
good day.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
See you guys. Anthony. Yes, you can. Oh, look, do you see me, Anthony? Are you still here? Yes. Yeah, that's
Miss Cole,
yes, ma'am, Shania.
I just wanted to remind you that I never saw my grade for Journal 4 in the grades. Like I never received the grade and I've been turned it in.
Oh, you don't see it in the thing? Hold on, let me pull it up while I got you here. Look, I said, look, that sound, look, you could hear the Tulsa, Oklahoma in that. Look, when I said, since I got you her. Hold on, let me look. Really. Oh, and let me stop my recording. That could be why I'm moving so slow.